In 2026, digital healthcare is mandatory, but navigating the actual barrier to entry is highly deceptive for new players. This decision tree maps app costs. Left side, $30,000 startup budgets secure appointment booking and health tracking. Right side, $500,000 enterprise platforms demand AI diagnostics, EHR integrations, and real-time telemedicine. Both share one massive bottleneck: regulatory compliance. What bridges these two extremes is the legal architecture. Whether you spend $30,000 or $500,000, you have to adhere to HIPAA, HL7, and FHIR standards to secure patient data. That is the hidden cost driver. The software code itself is often the cheapest part of the equation. The true expense of a healthcare app lies in building the unseen legal scaffolding required to keep the product out of the courtroom. This creates a trap when deciding who to hire. Go with a cheap, generic offshore development team, and you risk a massive data breach because they lack specialized healthcare compliance expertise. Look at this infographic to see the alternative. You hire a massive local enterprise agency, and they act like a heavy iron anchor, over-engineering the solution and sinking your financial runway before you ever launch. This is the exact dilemma an agency called GrowRankers claims to solve. They operate strictly as a specialized healthcare app development company. Their stated value proposition is simple. They combine structured enterprise-grade compliance mapping with cost-optimized development frameworks tailored for tighter budgets. But to see if they actually deliver, we have to look past the marketing copy. We need to evaluate how their specific workflow demands impact a project's timeline and budget. The central question you have to answer is whether the GrowRankers model fits your specific scale, or if their rigorous process demands too much compromise. This input-outcome scorecard breaks down their process, starting with Factor 1, pre-development. GrowRankers mandates exhaustive compliance mapping, user research, and clinical workflow analysis before a single line of code is written. Look at the outcome column. By establishing the legal standards early, you guarantee the foundational architecture is compliant. You stop paying developers to write code that has to be thrown out later. Now check the trade-off column. This heavy strategic planning delays the immediate gratification of seeing visual app progress, and it requires heavy upfront time from the founders. If you clear that hurdle, you hit Factor 2, their approach to keeping minimum viable products within that $30,000 to $50,000 range. They keep costs down through specific technical choices. They rely heavily on cross-platform frameworks like Flutter and React Native, alongside pre-built HIPAA-compliant cloud infrastructure. The outcome is efficiency. You drastically compress the initial budget and timeline to launch while maintaining the rigorous baseline security needed for sensitive medical data. The trade-off for using these cross-platform frameworks is a potential ceiling on hardware. If your app later pivots to require intensive, highly bespoke integrations with specialized medical wearables, you might face a native rebuild. For startups, accepting that upfront patience and making those cross-platform technical compromises is simply the necessary price for launching a legally viable MVP on a tight budget. Moving back to our scorecard, we evaluate Factor 3, how they manage the actual build. GrowRankers executes the project using milestone-based agile sprints. The outcome is total financial transparency. You only release funds as tangible, pre-agreed development checkpoints are explicitly cleared. The trade-off is your attention. This is not a hands-off, outsource and forget model. It requires active, recurring involvement from your team to review and approve every sprint. Finally, we evaluate Factor 4, post-launch support. In a rapidly evolving regulatory environment, a healthcare app is never truly finished. You have to retain GrowRankers for ongoing security updates, continuous compliance monitoring, and standard backend maintenance. The financial reality here is that you are converting what many founders initially view as a one-time capital expenditure into a permanent, ongoing operational expense. Achieving financial safety with this model demands continuous client involvement during the build and a permanent budget allocation long after launch. Successfully launching a healthcare app requires an agency that prioritizes legal architecture exactly as heavily as software architecture. This scenario match matrix determines who should hire GrowRankers. First, startup MVPs, highly recommended for founders needing pre-built, compliant infrastructure. Next, enterprise clinics, recommended for hospitals requiring HL7 and FHIR workflow mapping. But for generic lifestyle apps without protected health data, avoid this agency entirely. Paying a premium for deep compliance mapping and secure infrastructure is a wasted investment if your application carries zero regulatory risk. In 2026, a single data breach can permanently destroy a digital health company before it even gets started. Partnering with a specialized agency provides a necessary insurance policy. It guarantees that the software you build today actually survives the regulatory environment of tomorrow.